Now, so at this point, we will need to ask ourselves, meanwhile, so, if the same people that summarize 24 years as one verse, summarize 30 years as one verse, summarize 24 books as half a verse. Okay, let me leave you. You don't want to hear that one. You want to clap. If those same people come to summarize your life, in terms of how relevant your days have been to establishing and enforcing and extending the frontiers of the kingdom of heaven, you will now discover that it's very scanty. And that's why the apostolic must come back, so that purpose can be restored. At some point, we didn't know what we were doing in church again. At some point, it became an elitist thing, was a thing of class, where people just come like that to show stuff. We didn't know why we were in church at some point. And that's the kind of thing that happens when the apostles are absent. At some point, comedians found a way into church, because the pastor is expecting that people should be depressed. So we need to do something to encourage them so that they will not go all out. They will not be victims of anxiety. It means that with all the things we're doing in church, we were conscious of the fact that anxiety had overtaken the congregation. At some point, in order for you to be a church man, you need to go somewhere in Kumasi, take some power and put on your eyes, and then that's the church became a shrine. That's what we're doing, where we use tricks from Satan to come and dazzle the people of God. When the apostolic people are not there, we lose track. But their voice is strong, very strong. It's coming from a place of deep conviction to challenge a generation, and that's why they become objects of attacks and all of that. So you cannot fulfill apostolic ministry without being a major subject of attack. You can't. Because the apostle will challenge the status quo. He will remind us that that's not why we are here, even if the thing is working. So they say it's bad market. It's breaking the table. I remember they organized a meeting and called one of the fathers in Nigeria that had not bowed to Baal yet. They didn't know that so many people would want to come for that meeting, so they called him. When all the people that now decided to come for the meeting came, if this man holds this mic, we're going to have problem. The way the politics with which his slot disappeared, he said, since he was young, he has never seen that type of politics in the house of God. May the Lord give you understanding. A senior minister was warning me, say, you are doing well. Be it known to you that the politics in church is more than the ones in our political parties. He said, just in case you are not aware, take note. So, politics becomes the agenda when purpose is lost. And you see, you know when God gives you authority, just like Saul, they gave him authority. They anointed him. That's how he ascended and became king. Because of his reckless ways, God decided to withdraw that authority. But all that was left was political power. And because there is no vacuum in the spirit, when that authority was withdrawn, an evil spirit from the Lord was licensed to come and fill the void. So, are you there? Yeah. So he was using his political power to keep his relevance. For many ministers of the gospel, the true authority of Jesus had been withdrawn, and what is left is just political power. And in most cases, there is also an evil spirit. Please, I know Ghanaian pastors don't talk like this because I'm seeing mommy. Their mommy did like this. Mommy, you need to hold your heart because I have not started. You need to hold here. Hold your heart very well. When people can successfully do unscriptural things in public view without any remorse, you need to now ask, what spirit is at work here? Because no matter how your title is, it doesn't give you more authority than the Bible. If the Bible is still the ultimate authority and the voice of the Spirit, then we have a lot of ground to cover. The apostolic is supposed to bring us back to what the Holy Spirit began through our ancestors. It's supposed to accommodate all the requirements of truth that is designed to keep us in safety. So when the Holy Spirit did the summary of the book of Luke, he said the things that Jesus began both to do and to teach. So before Jesus taught, Jesus did. There were things he did. His teaching ministry was based on his doing life. And if you read the book, read the Gospels, you will find out the doing life of Jesus. This is the description of the times of Jesus, the life and times of Jesus. He lived to do his Father's will. That was the summary of the description of Jesus' motivation. Everything he did was to satisfy the will of his Father. So if we say Jesus did before he taught, the doing is living under the authority of his Father and modeling the example of obedience. That was the description of his life. Because Adam modeled rebellion, Jesus modeled obedience. Are you there? Still there? Yes. So this is the equation. For 3 decades of obedience, Jesus had 3 years of teaching ministry. But for most of us, it is for 3 years, not easy up to 3 years. 3 years of obedience, you want to do 10 years of teaching ministry. That's why your teaching doesn't have authority. One decade of obedience to 1 year of teaching. So in that ratio, God is more concerned about your obedience than he's concerned about your teaching ministry. What God can achieve with your teaching ministry is dependent on your life of obedience. The preacher that thinks that ministry is talking is a professional preacher that doesn't have any stroke of authority upon his life. So he goes to East Legon, gets a powerful horse, say this is the neighborhood of millionaires. Then he comes with a bow tie. You can do that drama for a while until a demon in the neighborhood takes notice of you. Then you will find out that you don't have the resources to contend with that spirit. And part of what is happening now is that unlicensed people, unauthorized people, God is beginning to expose them. And the exposure will gain more momentum across 3 years. So that everyone will know that men of God in the land have never been many. Men of God. Never. They have never been many. Even though church and all of that is an enterprise now. It's a big deal. Everybody is going into church because of so many reasons. But men of God, that will not increase the number of men of God. To not increase it. So every form of teaching that Jesus did was predicated upon a life of intentional obedience. That was where he got the authority. The authority to make many statements without consequences. The authority to say some things and to even speak into Hades and to command Hades to release Lazarus. That's where the authority came from. So the first thing that we see in the book of Acts or the Apostles chapter 1 is ministry stemming out of the root of intentional obedience. Ministry stemming out of the root of intentional obedience. So if we don't have your track record of obedience, if you don't have referees around your life, people you served with, are you there? For this time, then we see your progression. And then when your unique ministry began to blossom, God now said, okay, let's set him apart in order for him to continue this texture of ministry. Because this texture of ministry, I need it at this time. You there? So when you see that record of obedience, you are likely dealing with a man of God. Most men cannot even introduce their wives in public because they've seen them with strange women at the corners. And it's difficult to make a public presentation and say, this is the woman I've been with. Because then you now discover that the men of God are few. Because the mark of ministry is that your life must come out of, your ministry must come out of your life of obedience. When you are obedient to God, nobody pays you salary for that. So it's not a lucrative venture. So people believe that they can do ministry without having to obey. So what God does in order to identify, to point people to the people that obey him, is that he does something that will publicly unveil them. He gives them authority. You know, the message I brought, I've not preached it. The one I brought for that conference, I've not preached it. By the time we finish, you will know who is a false minister. He will give you authority. So that when you speak, he will back it up. He gives you spiritual resources with which he advertises the fact that this one is my man. Only such shattered individuals can carry out apostolic missions. Because an apostolic missionary, your integrity is part of what you are selling. Your obedience to God is part of the credit units that you need to survive. Your prayer life is part of the credit units. Are you there? Maintaining the message of the kingdom even when it's not popular and it will look as if you are swimming against the tide is part of the credit units that will add to your capacity. Apostolic people don't fly on trends so that they will blow. When you see someone trying to fit into every mode in order for him to have customers and clientele, he says he's working for Satan. He's working for Satan. Sometimes we get involved. Are you still following? Stay with me. He's working for Satan. So he goes here. He can't stand his ground. So he can become anything just to accommodate and say, you see, we are doing unity. We are doing unity.